Thank you, Captain O'Connor. I'd like to introduce Chief Greg Massey of the Second Alarmers, who, along with his fellow Second Alarmers, take care of our husbands and wives when they're at work.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening, everybody. As Lisa introduced me as Chief of the Second Alarmers, I actually stand here wearing two hats. I actually also am a 39-year veteran in the Philadelphia Police Department, so I get a chance to serve both roles each day and serve the citizens of Philadelphia. In my career, I've responded to many emergencies, but nothing like I was about to witness that night on May 12th, 2015. This morning I woke up, and the first thing I normally do is turn on the television, see what happened overnight. And of course, the first story of the day was the 1-year anniversary of this horrific incident. When I got to work, I was able to look at some of the newspapers, and I saw many more stories of what occurred 1 year ago that was written. I also had a chance to attend a memorial service today with most of our responders here today at City Hall. Emotions were, I thought, were in play today and recounting that horrific night. But of all the media accounts that I've seen, they really did not capture the real events that took place that night. There were many horrific efforts underway by both the Philadelphia Police and Fire Departments that were not visible to the average citizen. I witnessed the scores of passengers that were carried down the embankment that was a hazard within itself. Frankfurt and Sedgley is where I entered at, and I saw many people in need of medical attention, some severe, some not so severe. Surprisingly, it was a very eerie calm. There were no people that were screaming or hollering. I believe this was attributed due to the large number of emergency medical personnel, firefighters, police officers that they saw. It became a calming effect knowing that we were going to get them out of harm's way. And that we did. The technical rescue operation that was performed by the Philadelphia Fire Department truly saved lives. The unfortunate reality is that we lost 8 brave individuals that night, but I know that we did indeed save many more, and our only regret is that we wish we could have saved them all. Both of our departments were involved in what I would call a Herculean effort to remove everyone from the entanglement of metal, to get them to the hands of emergency medical personnel as quickly as possible. In every catastrophic event of large-scale magnitudes, you will never get a perfect scenario. But on that night, everyone who was involved, police, fire, EMS, the doctors and nurses, even private citizens, all had the best intentions. Everyone involved that night and the weeks, and now 1 year later, all wished we could have done more. Our Second Alarmers, which is a 95-year-old organization who are noted for emergency scene rehabilitation, were thrust into a different role that evening. We were actually providing EMS triage to passengers. We were providing some equipment to the fire department. And we were operating in some of the dangerous and hazardous conditions you can imagine. There was no lights behind us. There was lines that were hanging down from the girders. It was a very horrific scene. So the volunteers that were with me that night did a horrific event for me and then provided support for our departments over the next 3 days. So I thank them for that. In closing, I would like to say that when I was young, my mother told me we were all born with a set purpose in life. Yes, we can alter and change some things in our life, but there are other things that happen which can only be explained as fate. All of you, whether you want to believe it or not, were meant to be here. You were actually destined to be here that night to fulfill your obligations to save lives. There's a higher authority that actually made you, that sure you took the steps in life to put you in your role, that you can make a difference when it was needed the most. It was that night on May 12th of 2015 that led you where you are today. Let me say this, in closing, there's a footbridge that's right behind us. It's closed right now. But in 1969 to 1973, I walked that footbridge every day for 5 days, back and forth, going to school, my alma mater, Northeast Catholic High, which is now closed. I lived on the other side of the tracks. It was a shortcut to get to school. Many times when I walked over the bridge, I would stop and watch exactly what we see tonight, trains going by. I knew in my high school years that I wanted to have my career in some sort of public safety. And I went up in the police department and then, of course, got involved in my volunteer organization. But 42 years later, I never would have imagined I'd be working below that bridge last year. I can tell you this, that I worked along all my first responders side by side. And without a doubt, it is the best partnership that both departments could have, the men and women in the Philadelphia police and fire departments, are second to none. As Commissioner Sawyer mentioned about the dispatchers, those you don't know, there's actually parts of the country where they don't have cell phone technology to give us accurate information. Luckily, we did. That information that was received by police and fire dispatchers that night, we're able to give out to responding agencies where we can enter from multiple points and provide life-saving measures. To all of our first responders, especially our EMS personnel, the doctors, the nurses, Amtrak, police, SEPTA police and operations, the Salvation Army, the Fraternal Order Police, OEM, Red Cross, the clergy, all of our partners, including civilians. That evening and the many days to follow, and to all the neighborhood residents who rallied to provide a comfort level to everyone who was involved in that tragedy, we thank you. But most of all, our prayers and intentions go out to the families for the loved ones that you lost, and to the many others who suffer both physically and mentally each and every day from this horrible tragedy. We shall never forget you, and this day will always be etched in our thoughts for many years beyond us. God bless everybody.